With all the fancy firewalls and security we have, you'd think our inboxes would be Fort Knox, right? But there's a ghost in the machine. A fundamental flaw that lets sophisticated scammers craft the perfect fake email, one that sails right past our defenses like they're not even there. And today, we're going to crack the case of the perfect spoof. And believe me, this is not a small problem. The FBI says that in 2022 alone, these so-called business email compromise scams, they cost companies a jaw-dropping $2.7 billion. That's not a leak, that's a full-blown tidal wave of fraud. And it all kicks off with an email that looks totally legit. And to see just how creative these scams can get, you have to hear the story of Filippo Bernardini. This guy wasn't after money. He was a literary thief. For years, he pretended to be editors and agents. He registered more than 160 fake domains, all to steal over 1,000 unpublished books. And why? Because he just wanted to read them before anyone else. I mean, that's the level of dedication we're up against here. All right, so this is the big question, right? With billions of dollars, priceless books, you name it, on the line, how are scammers still pulling this off? To really get it, we need to understand the crime. And to do that, we first have to meet the cops on the beat. Okay, so every single day, your inbox has this team of protectors. A trio of protocols: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Let's think of them as the three guardians of email security. Each one has a very, very specific job. First up, we've got SPF. That's the Sender Policy Framework. Just think of SPF as the bouncer at a club. Basically, the club owner, that's the domain owner, gives the bouncer a guest list of all the approved IP addresses allowed to send email. So when an email shows up, SPF checks the sender's IP. On the list? Come on in. Not on the list? Sorry, you're not getting in. It's all about verifying who is sending the message. Okay, next up is DKIM. Now, if SPF is the bouncer, DKM is like an unbreakable wax seal on an old-fashioned letter. What it does is add this special cryptographic signature to the email, and that signature proves the message hasn't been opened or tampered with on its way to you. So DKM doesn't care who sent it. It only cares that what was sent is exactly what was intended. And that brings us to the third guardian, DMARC. DMARC is the boss, the manager, the one in charge. It takes a look at what the bouncer, SPF, and the seal checker, DKIM, have reported, and then it gives the final order. It can say, hey, just monitor the suspicious stuff, that's P equals none, or, you know what, send that to the spam folder, that's quarantine, or it can just say, nope, reject it, don't even let it in the door. So let's break that down one more time. SPF checks the who, DKIM checks the what, and DMARC gives the orders on what to do if either of those checks fail. In theory, this trio should be an ironclad defense. It should be perfect. But it's not. Okay, so if we have these three powerful guardians on duty, where's the breakdown? How is this happening? Well, this is where our investigation really kicks off, because somehow, even with all three in place, the fakes are still slipping through. And look, this isn't just some theoretical thing. This quote from a sysadmin on Reddit, it just perfectly captures the frustration out there. They're saying, hey, we did everything right. We set up SPF, DKM, DMARC, and we're still getting spoofed. It is a massive headache for IT folks everywhere. So why does it break? Well, there are a few common culprits. For one, SPF has this weird limit of only 10 DNS lookups. If a company uses a bunch of third-party services like Salesforce or MailChimp, they can hit that limit really fast, and poof, SPF just breaks. Then you've got a ton of companies setting their DMARC policy to P equals none, which is basically monitor-only mode. It offers zero actual protection. Throw in a few simple typos in the settings or the mind-boggling complexity of modern email gateways, and the whole system becomes super fragile. But honestly, all of those things, they're just clues. They don't explain the perfect spoof. No, the real culprit, the big break in the case, it's something way more common. Something that millions of us use every single day without even thinking about it. So what if the master key that unlocks everything isn't some complex bug or a piece of malware? What if it's just an everyday feature? Yeah, let's talk about email forwarding. Okay, here's the core of the problem. When an email comes directly to you, the system checks the sender's IP address against their approved list. If it matches, SPF passes. Simple enough. But when you forward an email, you're sticking a middleman right in the middle. See, the original email goes to a forwarding server, which then sends it on to you. So your email server doesn't see the original sender's IP address. It sees the forwarder's IP. And of course, that forwarder's IP is not on the original sender's guest list, so SPF fails every single time. And this brings us to the attacker's weapon of choice, a feature called open forwarding. There are a bunch of major email services, including Microsoft Outlook, that let you set up forwarding to any email address you want. No questions asked, no verification. The assumption is, you're just sending stuff to another one of your own inboxes. But an attacker can take that trust and turn it into a weapon. All right, so we've got the motive, we've got the means, we've got the opportunity. Let's reenact the heist. I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how an attacker uses this to create a completely undetectable fake email. So researchers actually have a name for this. They call it the SPF incorporation attack. It sounds super technical, I know, but the idea behind it is just brilliantly simple and incredibly effective. Okay, here's how the heist goes down is step by step. Step 1, the attacker gets a tool. They create a simple Outlook account. Step 2, they set the target. They just configure that account to forward all incoming mail straight to the victim. Step 3 is the disguise, and this is the genius part. They pick a high-trust domain to impersonate, one that also uses Outlook for its email. Let's say state.gov. Okay, step 4, send the fake. The attacker sends a spoofed email from state.gov to their own forwarding account. Step 5 is the forward. Outlook gets the email and, like a good little forwarder, sends it right along to the victim from its own servers. And here's the kicker. Step 6, the delivery. The victim's email service sees an email from state.gov, but it's coming from a trusted Outlook server. Since state.gov's own SPF record says we trust Outlook, everything checks out. SPF passes, DMARC passes, game over. And there you have it. The result is a perfect spoof. The email, looking like it's from state.gov, lands right in the victim's inbox. No warning banner, no trip to the spam folder, nothing. To the person on the receiving end, it looks completely 100% real. And get this vulnerability affects tens of thousands of domains. We're talking government agencies, banks, news organizations, you name it. So, okay, after seeing an attack that is so slick and so widespread, you have to ask, what on earth can we do about it? Well, the good news is, we're not helpless. There are ways to build a much better defense. For any organization out there, the biggest weapon is a gradual but firm DMARC rollout. You can't just flip a switch overnight. That'll break things. You have to do it in stages. First, you start at P equals none. That's just monitoring mode. You just watch and see who's sending email on your behalf. This helps you figure out what's legit. Then you move up to P equals quarantine. This starts moving unauthenticated stuff to the spam folder. You watch, make sure nothing important is getting caught, and then, only when you're 100% confident, you go to the final step, P equals reject. That blocks all unauthenticated mail completely. Maximum protection. But DMARC, as important as it is just one piece of the puzzle. The experts all agree you need a defense with multiple layers. So first, block first. Use modern AI-powered tools that can stop threats before a user can even click on them. Second, get visibility. You need to know who in your organization is the biggest target. Third, train your users. They are your last line of defense, so you have to empower them to spot and report suspicious emails. Fourth, automate your response. When a threat is detected, you need to contain it and fast. And finally, yes, authenticate your email. Use DMARC to protect your own brand from being used in one of these attacks. This whole thing leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. Email is over 50 years old. It was designed for a much simpler, more trusting internet. We've spent decades patching it up, bolting on security, but these deep foundational cracks, they're still there. So in an era of constant, evolving attacks, you have to wonder, What will its next 50 years look like? Can we ever truly secure it, or will we always be just one clever trick away from the next perfect spoof?